don't you think it happened this time?
I think there was probably a couple, quite a few reasons. I think there was firstly, there was a massive elderly vote that came out to save the union. In that whole era, people over 65 voted overwhelmingly to stay in the union, and these are the people that remember the more homogenous post-war Britain.
Sure.
So they've got these, and also the war and all that. So there's that nostalgia. I think once these people were taken out of the equation, I can't really see it holding together. But there's also a massive ongoing sort of peer campaign, and the media was very, very unremittingly against it, and they would misrepresent it any opportunity they could get. And I think people, basically felt that the kind of upheaval that it would cause, which was massively exaggerated, really was too much for them. And again, it was also a promise of devolution max powers, which I think swayed a lot of people at the end. That a no vote was still a vote for change, which hasn't happened, hasn't been delivered to any extent. So I think, but if you looked at it at the start, everybody said it was going to be like 30% yes, 70% no, and to get so close, I think was quite an achievement, really. So, but I think that it'll continue to happen in that way.
Were you there when the vote was on?
Yeah, I came over for it, and it was a weird time because I had to write two. There's Norrie laughing there. We were off for a mad bender for about 3 days before, during, and after. But I had to write two pieces for the Guardian, and one which assumed a yes vote and one which assumed a no vote, because I had to get in very quickly. So I had to send those two pieces in advance and knowing what the result was going to be. And I actually thought, because it was so close in the polls, that it was actually going to be a yes vote, it was going to sneak it. But when I wrote the two pieces, it seemed to me that if it was a no vote, in some ways it was actually going to be quite more interesting in a way, because I couldn't see the union holding together with a no vote. I thought if it's a yes vote, it's all that kind of thing, be careful of what you wish for. Now we've got to get on with the idea of sort of building a new nation and all that. But if it's a no vote, I think that there's massive ramifications, and the ramifications I think will start to be felt at the next election. I think you're going to have a whole, you almost do now have a whole different political system in Scotland, and I think they'll continue this process of nation building from within. So it is almost like reinventing itself from within, and that's quite interesting too.
Did you watch Question Time the other night?
That was the one with Russell Brand and Nigel Farage. Yeah, I did. Yeah. I say I watched it. I've watched parts of it. I was chopping in and out.
Do you make a Russell Brand?
I'm very, very pro Russell Brand, and I know it's like it's easy to sneer at somebody who wears their heart on their sleeve in that way, but he's tapped into something that a lot of people, particularly younger people, who've been completely disenfranchised by the system, have are vibing on. And always think about the people that criticise him. All the people on the left that criticise Russell Brand. How dangerous are they to the establishment now? All these clapped out Labour left-wing people. Is Rupert Murdoch writing columns and editorials about them? Are they conducting YouGov polls on how dangerous the Labour Party or Miliband are? So he has tapped into something very important, and I think it's in some ways it's a horrible sign of how fucked our political system is that a comedian has that level of, is probably the most popular political figure in the country now. So, and who's no interest in the actual system itself,
Yeah.
So I think it's, it's like he's a massive figure. I think there's other really, he's taken, if you look at it, must be miserable. It's always been miserable to be in the Socialist Workers' Party, but what do you do when somebody like Russell Brand comes along? He's got like fucking 9 million followers on Twitter, and you're struggling to sell 10 copies of the Socialist Worker. You take the Financial Times take all these columns at the Financial Times and then write, but the way to do this is to sell the paper and join the former revolutionary vanguard and all, kind of go through all this. And then, so it's like, obviously there's nothing been happening. We've been in this kind of political stasis for 30 years where nothing's moved on. And I think that, Russell Brand's one interesting element. There's a lot of, different interesting elements of the way things are changing. Somebody like Caitlin Moran, for example, has changed the way that feminism is perceived from being kind of very sort of po-faced and disapproving to being a very fun, positive assertion of womanhood and femininity. Absolutely. And all that. So I think that these people are very important figures, and they've captured a kind of a zeitgeist, and they've captured something that that just isn't offered by politicians or by mainstream politicians. And it's like you have to laugh at these guys saying, "Yeah, we have to get with this change. We have to get with this," but they're the fucking problem. Just cease to exist, and then things will be better.
Irvine, I asked you a minute ago about writing in the Scottish way, but what you just said about Russell Brand. Did you not surely then start out? Did you not have a point to prove when you wrote? Sorry to harp on about Trainspotting the same way, but at the end of the day, when you set out, I've read your books, they are political, if you like. They are. You set out, surely you must have been the yes vote. You must have set out that way in the beginning. You must have a point to prove.
No, not really. I would probably have not been kind of, when I wrote Trainspotting, I probably would have not been a kind of yes independence supporter at the time. I probably would have been kind of no.
You put it on the map for everybody in the world.
Yeah, it's like that wasn't really my fault in a way. It was like people who kind of vibed on the book and bought it and did that. It's like I don't think you can set these kind of grandiose ambitions as a writer. I think you're just trying to, and it sounds a bit like this sounds like one of these football guys saying that I didn't see that goal. But it is. I think all you're concerned about is doing the best you can with character and storyline, and trying to pull it together. And the reaction is completely out of your hands. It's like that kind of thing. When you go up and ask somebody to dance at the disco, you don't know if you're going to get dragged away onto the disco floor and you're going to have the best night of your life, or you're going to get slapped in the pus, or you're going to turn away and walk away to the toilet. You never really know. So you can only be responsible for your behaviour. You can't be responsible for the kind of general reaction to it.
I'm actually curious here. Russell Brand, yes, hands in the air.
Yeah, it's got a good...
Russell Brand, no.
Fuck you guys.
Oh, come on, no, come on.
Too scared
Mixed.
to sit on.
Russell Brand sitting on the fence.
No. Did you say Russell Brand sitting on your face or?
Yeah, it's a Yorkshire vernacular.
James's hand goes up straight away now.
Sorry, go on. Sorry, there's a gentleman over there who's going to say something.
I'm just saying that, Russell Brand is all about the, don't vote. But as you see, we had 16, 17-year-olds voting in Scottish independence. I was walking in Soggy Hall Street and I heard green eggs, smoking tabs and saying, "Oh, what about the fish and all polishing and that?"
Yeah. No, it was a completely changing thing, and I think I think when he said don't vote, he said that he would have voted yes in the Scottish elections because the reason he's saying don't vote is because he believes there's nothing worth voting for in the existing parliamentary system. I think that if I was living in England, I probably wouldn't vote because I just would kind of I couldn't bring myself to vote for any of these parties.
Not even Green?
Yeah, if there's a Green candidate, I probably would. Yeah.
Can I ask you about what the guy down there said? When you started writing, and also after you became successful, were there other authors that you were trying to match yourself against or better?
Try to better every one of them, really, but
Shakespeare.
Yeah.
In particular, was there anyone you think I want to write a better book than Bryce Ellis or?
Yeah. I think you kind of you get again. It's a boring one, but it's true because you spend so much time on a book. You just kind of you get so immersed in it. You really try to do the very best that you can do. And you can't kind of you can't really take your eye off the ball. You've got to be immersed in that sort of world that you've created. And you don't really see kind of anything. I mean, obviously, when I've finished it, I've had kind of aspirations for books that they'll do better than this person's or that person's, but when I'm actually doing it, I'm lost in that world, basically.
Did your mother have any like extreme reactions to your characters, or anyone in your family had any kind of extreme reactions that are worth talking about?
Mum came out in hives when she read Trainspotting.
Yeah, my mum's always got a wee comment. She goes like, she said like, in the last book I had, she read it. She goes, I enjoyed it, son. It was well written, but there's too much sex in it. She goes, and what do you know about lesbian sex? I said, well, I hope more than you. Like,
Can I ask, I just wondered what was going on for you when you wrote Acid House, because that book blew my mind.
yeah, I mean, there's no point in kind of being coy, but I was taking loads of drugs when I wrote Acid House.
Yeah, the bit with the parents and the fly and... Dunstan, you were going to ask a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, like when a band do the first album, that's usually like 20 years, 22 years, 18 years of experience that they're channeling all into that first album. Then you get to the second album and it's like, what the fuck do I do for the second album?
Drugs.
What was your process with the second book?
Well, it was like, yeah, I mean, I was fortunate really that I kind of done Trainspotting and Acid House very close together, so I kind of, hit the ground running and I had 2 books out. The one that gave me the problems was the third one. And I wrote this, I said to my publisher, I've done this experimental novel, which was like kind of, basically me photocopying my gospel about 500 times. I'm not joking either, like, I was like kind of, I kind of thought that anything that I did would be fantastic. I had this kind of Midas touch. And he said to me, and there's all sorts of weird poems and all sorts of kind of stuff going on in it. He said to me, look, this is fucking rubbish. It's not, it's just crap. It's not even interesting in a cool way. It's just like fucking nonsense, like, it's absolute pish. And he goes, I said, but what do I do? He goes, well, just go away. There's nothing savable in this at all. Just chuck it in the bin, go away, and write what you really want to write about, And I kind of, I ended up writing a book called Marabou Stork Nightmares, which is kind of, to me, is one of my best books. Like, it was just out of that desperation of kind of, but thinking about, I said, well, if you want to, write an experimental book, but do one that's got a little bit of interest in it for people to, it's about something rather than just, I mean, this thing that I handed in, he said, only you know what this is about. Nobody else will ever know what it's about. Like, and he was wrong because I didn't know what the fuck it was about.